born with sickle cell disease and I had a bone marrow transplant. It completely changed my life. Are we carnivore?
I mean, technically, no.
Yes, okay. I know, sweetheart.
My joint pain went away. I don't get sick. I don't have panic attacks anymore. Folic acid is toxic to your body. I thought that having weak, paper-thin nails, I couldn't get past that I was eating a ton. Don't know how to explain it, but it literally feels like freaking joy being injected into your veins. I know that diet is trending out there, and it is something that my husband and I did last year for about 2 months. It completely changed my life. But I'm going to tell you all the pros of what the carnivore diet did for me, and then I'm also going to tell you the few cons that I found with the diet. The first pros are, if you're a lady and you want to be the most beautiful you have ever looked in your life, you will try the carnivore diet. When I tell you that I looked the most beautiful that I have ever looked on that diet, I am not even kidding you. I was out here like the girls on TikTok and Instagram. I was eating sticks of butter. Now, if you don't know what carnivore is, it does not work if you're still eating carbs and sugar. Essentially, you're no longer running on carbs and sugar. Your body is now running on fat and protein. This is not going to work if you're still eating carbs and sugar. So me and my husband, we both completely cut carbs and sugar, and we were eating, well, he would not eat sticks. I tried to get him to eat sticks of butter, but he wasn't having it. Don't try to get your man to eat sticks of butter. Like, he's probably not going to do it, especially if you black. Good luck. If you do get your husband to eat sticks of butter, like, please let me know, because I was trying to get D to eat sticks of butter and to eat fat, and he wasn't really having it. I was out here eating sticks of butter, you guys, and when I tell you that I looked the most gorgeous I have ever looked in my life, I don't have a ton of video footage of me like dressed up because... So when I tell you I looked the most gorgeous I have ever looked in my life, I looked so pretty. Now keep in mind, like, I feel like I've always had decent skin, but I have definitely suffered through the years with really dark eyes. I am wearing makeup right now. Not a lot, but I am wearing some makeup. But I've always struggled with like discoloration in certain parts of my face. But for the most part, I've always had nice skin. In the videos that I'm gonna insert here, you're going to see that my skin had a glow that it has never had before. Everything was just even, luminescent and glowy and dewy. And sometimes I'd be looking at pictures and I'm like, oh my God, I need to go back on this diet. But listen, your skin will look incredible. It will look a way that it has never looked before. And if you go and you start researching the carnivore diet, you will find testimonials everywhere of women who have had all kinds of really bad skin diseases and they cured it going on a carnivore diet. I don't have TikTok anymore, but when I did have TikTok, there was this one girl. She eliminated everything. She went on a strict carnivore diet, and this girl had like cystic acne, just like broils inside of her skin, like oozing like everywhere. And she went on carnivore and it completely healed her skin. And whenever she deviates from carnivore, that stuff comes back. There's another woman I found here on YouTube, and if I can find her video, I will put it in the link in the description box, but she also had really bad skin stuff Oh, give me one. Hold on. Hi, guys.
Hi, Precious.
How are you?
Good. I just wanted to ask you a couple things. Could I borrow that hose again?
What hose?
Your garden hose.
Is it out there?
I think it's out there.
Yeah.
And also we were thinking about your mom. Is she in Los Angeles?
Yeah,
Is she all right?
She's okay.
Oh my.
She's in Woodland Hills, so
Okay.
she's okay. She's in
Yeah.
the valley. I mean, it was a little smoky out there, but
Yeah.
it didn't touch her, thank God.
Good,
Oh
thank
my.
God.
Yeah. And
Good.
they're all in the valley.
Oh wow.
Wow, your
It's a
teeth are
big
sparkling
place.
white.
Oh, really? Thank you. It's toothpaste.
Oh yeah, you use that too.
That's what we use.
How are you guys doing?
Doing good, doing
She's
good.
making a pumpkin pie.
Oh,
I'm
yum.
making the crust. I know this might not be good stuff, but Crisco makes real flaky
Crust?
crust.
I'll take a little piece when you're done.
Yes, sure, darling.
Thank you.
You're welcome. How y'all doing? Y'all doing all right?
Yeah, we're doing good. going back and forth on if we should move. All right, always nice talking to my neighbors. So anyway, she also had really bad skin stuff everywhere, and she completely cured her skin condition with the carnivore diet. So there is something to carnivore and skin. And then that leads me into my second segue of course, if it's helping your skin, what is it doing for your hair and your nails? I have been keeping my hair in braids because I am on the natural hair journey with some of my favorite girlies here on YouTube, and I am trying to get my hair down to waist length. My hair is now currently into the middle of my back. And so I do know that my hair is growing. So carnivore definitely will make your hair grow. And then the last part of the vanity portion is your nails. My nails are not very long right now, but I will insert in some shots of how long my nails got. I had to cut them down recently because I do a lot of work in the kitchen. And so I'm not the most graceful at grabbing things. And yeah, I'm always breaking them. But I thought that having weak, paper thin nails was just my portion in life. I thought that I just had weak nails that were paper thin, that were never meant to grow no matter what I did. When I went on carnivore, my nails got strong and they started growing. They didn't break. They don't break anymore. I mean, they only break when I'm like accidentally hit something really hard or I'm not being graceful with them, but it started to heal my nails, which is really amazing. The next thing about carnivore is that when I was on the diet, I went to go get my labs done. Now, when you do carnivore diet, there are lots of carnivore communities. You can type in carnivore on Facebook and join a Facebook group. I'm no longer on Facebook. I deleted all my social media. I have reactivated Sisterfrennn because I'm trying to start getting some recipes on there on my Instagram profile, but I'm not really there. But I deleted Facebook. I deleted TikTok, which deleting social media is very freeing. It's amazing. If you haven't done it, you should try it sometime. But anyway, I joined carnivore communities on Facebook, which were amazing because you get to read all of the stories and the things that people have been healed from being on carnivore. When I was on the diet, I don't know, maybe about a month into the diet, I went to go have my labs done at the doctor. I posted my labs because when you first go on carnivore, you don't really understand what all of the different labs mean. You're really still trying to understand, okay, my cholesterol is high, the LDL versus the HDL. And when you join a carnivore community Facebook group, they are really good at helping explain labs. Dr. Ken Berry, he has some really cool templates that can explain what the different levels of blood work mean. Even if you go to Dr. Ken Berry's YouTube channel, you will see tons of just testimonials. Even if you don't want to watch his videos, you can go to his YouTube channel and you can see the miracle stories that people are saying about what carnivore has done for them. So anyway, when I got my labs done, I put all of the numbers there and I was telling everybody all of the benefits that I had had from being on the diet. There was this woman and she messaged me and she said, "Hey, I'm not sure if you noticed, but your blood calcium is way too high." She told me that sometimes when your blood calcium is high, that can mean that you have a tumor on your parathyroid. So of course I started panicking. In my mind, I was like, I have high blood calcium. To me, logically in my brain, I thought that meant that I had too much calcium, but it actually means the quite opposite. She told me, she was like, you really need to go have this checked. I ended up meeting this other girl on Instagram at the time, and she sent me an article written by Dr. Ray Peat, and he talks about what happens to your parathyroid and what happens to your body when you are deficient in calcium. I had always bragged that I had never had milk since I was on my mother's breast. I have always been somebody who makes my own nut milks, whether it's cashew milk, almond milk, and I did not know that all these years of making my own nut milks that was causing me to be deficient in calcium. Now, granted, I have been a fruit and veggie girl through and through, like I said, kale, broccoli, spinach, having all kinds of different vegetables that I have been told through the years that will give me calcium. But here's the deal. Something that I learned about when I was doing carnivore is just because a food has a vitamin or a mineral in it doesn't mean that it's bioavailable. That does not mean that your body is absorbing it the way that it should. So even though I was having tons of kale, broccoli, spinach, cabbage, arugula, all those different things, that doesn't mean that it was absorbable. I went back to look at all of my medical records. If you're new here, I was born with sickle cell disease and I had a bone marrow transplant when I was 26, going on 27, which cured me of the sickle cell. I went back to all of my labs throughout the years at my hospital in Los Angeles and even some of the labs that I've had done here, lo and behold, I have had high blood calcium for years. My hospital back home in LA verified. They were like, yeah, your blood calcium is really high. So I ended up meeting this woman on Instagram, and like I said, she sent me the article from Ray Pete, and she told me that I needed to start drinking milk. So if you are somebody who's at home and you're making all of your own nut milks, like cashew milk, almond milk, whatever, just know that even though the ones in the stores contain a lot of preservatives, I wouldn't drink them personally because I don't want all the gunk that they put in those nut milks. But those milks at the store are fortified with calcium and vitamin D. So when I was making them at home, I was not getting that. And I guess the food that I was eating via vegetables for calcium was not becoming bioavailable to me. During carnivore, I learned that I had really high blood calcium. You can look up what that means, but it's basically when calcium is being leached from your bones into your bloodstream and other parts of your body. Your blood calcium levels, if you're not somebody who drinks milk or eats cheese, you should get your blood calcium levels checked. So that started me on the raw milk journey. Now I will say during the 2 months that me and my husband were strict carnivore, I was not drinking raw milk. Keep that in mind. Now that I have started raw milk, and I have been on raw milk for about 8 months now, about 8 months, 8 or 9 months, my blood calcium levels are in normal range. I guess we will just talk about the raw milk for a second. Since going on raw milk, I have noticed such an amazing benefit in my health. Every single year for probably the last, the sun is moving. Let's readjust. Every single year for at least the last 10 years, I get a fever of 103. I end up in the ER. I get all the flus. I get all the things. But since starting raw milk, I am not even joking you, I have been exposed to a crazy amount of viruses and I don't get sick. I drink raw milk every day. Our farm doesn't have fresh colostrum all the time because colostrum is basically the first milk after a calf is born. I know some people have weird feelings about it. They say, well, hey, I would rather the baby calf drink that colostrum than me take that colostrum and drink it rather than the calf having it. I need to email my farm because I'm not certain I'm sure my farm has really good practices, but needless to say, they sometimes have fresh colostrum. It's not often. But I've had 2 quarts of it, and when I've gotten the 2 quarts, I separate it into 2 tablespoons and I freeze it. I usually put about a tablespoon to 4 tablespoons of colostrum in my daily milk. Colostrum in raw milk has been game changing for me. I have immunity like no other. My husband and I have flown 4 times over the course of the last 2 months. I heard people coughing and gagging, and I went to a wedding with 300 guests. The bride herself was really sick. She didn't even come to her rehearsal dinner. We miss you. Get back. We miss you. Wake up. Rise up.
How we doing?
See, is this a video?
Huh?
Fruit.
No, it's all carbs.
Some fruit. What did you
Happy
make me
wedding
something?
day!
Is this a video?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, you guys.
It's a
How did I
video.
get sick on my wedding day? Huh?
Because were you eating healthy?
I wasn't. I needed you.
Were you eating healthy? I was a bridesmaid and I never got sick. My husband came home. He had I don't know what he had, and I was taking care of him for like 3 or 4 days and I never got sick. So I know for a fact that it is the raw milk and the colostrum that has been making me feel so good. Another reason that I think that raw milk is really good for me is because having had premature ovarian failure, which I talk about that in one of my other videos here on the channel, is that I'm at risk for osteoporosis and things of that nature because my body went into menopause early. So anything that I can do to promote really strong bones and to produce any sort of estrogen or progesterone, I'm gonna do it. I mean, I don't want to get really deep into the weeds on that, but my bone density game is very strong from weightlifting, and I also believe raw milk is adding to the strength of my bones. Raw milk has helped my gut. My poops are beautiful. Raw milk is great. And the last thing I will say about raw milk, and I was just telling my husband about this morning, is that my entire life, and I don't know the science behind this, but my entire life I have always had really large, those white windows on your nails. Most of my fingernail has been with that white window, and since being on milk, those little windows have gone down so much. There's only like a little tiny little bit on some of my fingernails. Raw milk, I will never not have it. This is the biggest thing that has helped me with carnivore diet. My anxiety and depression went away. And you'll see this in many of the groups. Now, prior to me starting this diet, I had, and I talk about this in my other video, beef liver heals, I had hallucinations at one point. I've had really bad intrusive thoughts. For the first year, about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, I was ruminating about death all the time. I was constantly thinking about death. I would have really bad panic attacks. And no matter what I did, I just upped the green juice. I started juicing more and more and more green juice. And I would be like, okay, I'm having really bad depression. Let me eat more healthy. Let me have more broccoli. Let me have more kale. I did not realize that I was probably extremely deficient in B vitamins. I remember going to I was in the emergency room. I don't remember what I was in the ER for, but I was in the ER and I remember calling my husband and I was telling him, I was like, babe, I just got done talking to one of the nurses and she confided in me and told me that she was on antidepressants. I told my husband, I was like, I'm gonna have to be on antidepressants. I've done everything. I've gone to therapy. I've been trying EMDR. I am looking at the YouTube videos. I'm doing all the things, but I'm still having really bad panic attacks. I'm still having anxiety. I'm still having night terror. And I thought that that's what was going to have to happen. What happened that got me on carnivore is my friend Kim, which I'm not gonna rehash all this. If you wanna know how it started, you can go look at my beef liver heals video because I talk about it there about how I started carnivore. And that first weekend that I went on it, I had beef liver for the first time in my life. And when I tell you that I felt I had beef liver and the euphoria that I felt for 3 days, I ate meat for 3 days and I felt like I was cured of anxiety and depression. I felt like I was cured. I was roaming around the house. I was smiling. I felt so good. I felt the best I had ever felt in my entire life. For that 3 days, I can't remember if I had cut carbs completely. I think I had because I had steak, bison, beef liver. Today I'm having my liver for the first time. We're gonna have liver pate and yeah, and we'll see how it tastes. And for 3 days, I was on top of the world. I felt like I was gonna live forever. After that 3 days, I was like, this is the cure. So that's what made me stay on it for the next 2 months. Because anytime I had tried to reintroduce anything, I remember I made oxtails and I made them the Haitian way. So I got all these seasonings from the African store and I made Haitian epis, which is like a blend of like leeks and chives and basically all these vegetables. And I made the most delicious oxtail. What do you think, baby?
Oh my gosh.
It's so good. What do you think?
That's legit. The only thing that's always so disappointing about oxtail is there's not a lot of meat.
I know, that's what I said. We might have to have some ground beef after this. How's the flavor?
Perfect.
You're not coming up for air to tell me, so I'm assuming it's good.
Only we have rice with it.
Yeah, I figured no carbs.
I know you would do that to me. I already knew.
You know.
I could use some bread, use it as sloppy stuffed up.
You have grease all over your mouth. I'll have to put the lady's recipe here in the description box if you're into it, but I made these Haitian oxtail and they were so good. And almost immediately, because I was like, okay, well, this is still meat, so I can have it. So almost immediately after I ate the oxtails, I was having a panic attack. Like I felt like I was dying. Then again, when I was on carnivore, I ate an apple and I was like panicking after an apple. I don't know. Have I eaten apples since? Yeah. And I do notice a correlation on if I've eaten protein before I eat said food. So the anxiety and the depression went away. And you will see that a lot when people tell you that they went on carnivore and their anxiety and their depression went away. You will see that over and over again. And I am here to testify to you, I never left my house without lemon balm, CBD oil, ashwagandha, valerian root. These are all like herbs. And I always had them in my purse because if I had a panic attack, I needed something to calm my nervous system. I swear to you guys, we did carnivore last, I have to look at the months, June, July, or August, straight carnivore. And since then, because now I eat meat every day, whether it's salmon or steak or red snapper or sardines or eggs, branzino, I eat meat every single day, but I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't have anxiety attacks. I don't have these moments of like panic. I don't ruminate about death all the time. There is something to food causing anxiety attacks, vegetables, fruits, grains. There is a correlation to it, but I also think that there's a correlation to the order of operations. So whenever I do eat sourdough bread, or whenever I do eat an apple or a banana or sugar, I always eat protein and fat first, because that slows anything else from spiking your blood sugars. I don't know if it's the spiking of the blood sugar that causes the panic attack or whatever. I always prioritize protein and fat before I eat anything else. So that is a huge takeaway from carnivore. It's hard to get my husband to comply. I feel like I'm like, papa, because when I do give him carbs or whatever, I'm like, eat the vegetables first, because we do eat some veg now. But I always tell him like, eat the vegetables first, or eat the protein and the fat first, so that, you know, we're not spiking our blood sugar. So anxiety and depression went away. The next thing that carnivore helped me with was the introduction to organ meats, which I will never not eat organ meats. When you get on carnivore, you start getting a little exploratory with the meats. I actually just this week tried beef tongue for the first time. It was actually really good, but I couldn't get past that I was eating a tongue. So there's still some left in the refrigerator. Do you need a knife?
Joe Kennedy has transformed how Hollywood does business.
Hot.
It's tasty. What is
Just
this?
as quickly as he got in.
This is tongue.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
South.
Yes, it is. You should.
The same aggressive.
This is tongue. You made tongue.
not.
In the way you're laughing.
I'm not laughing.
The whole I know it's tongue. The higher your voice goes, the higher the lie you have to make.
It's not tongue.
Yes,
Why
it
do you
is.
think that?
Because I know you.
You don't know me.
I know you.
You don't
This
know
is
me.
tongue.
Okay.
I'll try it, but I know this is tongue. And also, you know how else I know it's tongue? The ridges, because Why are you trying to feed? Why are you feeding me tongue?
What are you talking about?
I don't need tongue after this. But for tongue, it is very good.
The 3 organs that I tried while being on carnivore was beef liver, beef heart, and beef kidney. So it's a new day for a new organ meat I have not tried. I have this beef kidney, and I'm really excited to try it. I'm not optimistic that I'm gonna like it because I've heard some bad things about the taste. But I'm excited about the feeling, because the organ meats, woo, they make you fly so high, make you feel so good. I'm in a Facebook group, a carnivore Facebook group, and one of the guys in the UK commented on one of my posts. He told me that this is one of the most antihistamine organ meats that you can have. He said it was his favorite meat back in the 40s and 50s. Pretty sure he's an older gentleman, and he's in the UK. He told me to leave. He said, don't wash it. He said to leave this white thing on there, and he said to just fry this up in some butter and eat it like that. This is a lot of beef kidney for me and my husband, and I'm not optimistic that we're gonna eat a lot, so I'm gonna fry it up barely. He said not too long, just barely. Kind of want to keep it rare a little bit. I'm gonna just dice it back up and put it back in the freezer, and that's kind of what we've been doing with the organ meats. We've just been barely searing them, blending them for the liver, putting it into a pate, putting it in the freezer, and then just having a little scoop daily. So I might do that with this, because I'm not optimistic about the taste. This is a kidney, but it makes you feel good. My nails are getting stronger. My skin is getting clearer. This is my 6th week going into carnivore, and everything's not perfect, but I've never felt better in my life. So I'm really excited. Don't really need to have kidney again. Beef liver and beef heart I will never not have. When I tell you the first time I had beef liver, which you can do your research, beef liver is literally called nature's superfood. So when you eat beef liver, you are literally you're getting the whole full spectrum of all the things that you need. Beef liver makes you feel so good. I'm like, me just talking about it, I want to go get some beef liver right now. So I see so many girlies out there who are like, I'm iron deficient, which that's a huge thing. When you go on carnivore, your iron levels are going to come up. You're not going to be cold all the time. As a girly who was constantly juicing more fruits, more vegetables, lentils, dals, beans, I was always cold. Always. My husband would be like, it's not cold, but I was always cold. And so I feel like I'm not always cold anymore. I'm pretty sure I have really good iron levels. So if you want to get your iron levels up, instead of relying on supplements, I am always the person that's going to tell you, rely on food. Food is medicine and medicine is food. So beef liver made me feel like I could fly. Now, when I first got on carnivore, I was eating at least 1 ounce of beef liver pate every day. Now I don't do that. I feel like I don't want to have too much homocysteine and I don't want to have iron overload, because when you have too much iron in your body, you can't get rid of it. So I am very careful about organ meats. Now I just have beef liver when I feel like it. I don't know. The last time I had beef liver was I had beef liver when my sister-in-law was here for Christmas. Today is January 13th. I had beef liver like, I don't know, December 23rd or something. So I probably won't even have it again until next month. But I do eat beef. I don't even need to make my beef liver into pate anymore. I just get it in the pack and I just eat it with onions, and I actually kind of have an acquired taste for it. But if you've never had beef liver, the first time you have it, you're going to feel amazing. I will also put a link in the description box of another guy who had severe anxiety and depression, and everything that he described when he ate beef liver is what I experienced. Now, after I had beef liver, I also wanted to try heart. I was like, okay, if beef liver is making me feel this good, let me try beef heart. Now, of course, it took me a little minute to get it down, because you're like, I'm eating a heart. But can I just tell you, okay, what does beef heart taste like? My husband says it tastes like faux steak. He won't eat it. I try to get him to eat it for the health benefits, because here's the thing. Everywhere in America, they're trying to sell you on CoQ10 supplements. Do you know what has the richest level of CoQ10? Beef heart. So beef heart has all the things in it. When I tell you, Sisterfrennn, like, if you don't listen to anything else I'm telling you right now, you have to try beef heart. When you eat beef heart for the first time, you're going to feel a euphoria that you have never felt in your life. The euphoria on beef heart is like, I don't even know how to explain it. You're just like, I'm so happy, I'm gonna live forever, like life is so good. It makes you feel so good. I want beef heart right now, just because the feeling is like just pure joy being injected into your veins. If you think I'm making it up, try it. I haven't had any beef heart now in like 2 months, but when I started eating it regularly, I was trying to like chase that high because it felt so good. But now that I think my body's had it, I don't get that high anymore. But when you first have it, the high is crazy. There was this man that I used to follow on Instagram. I might still follow him. I haven't been on Instagram in so long, like I said. It's called like the real raw human diet or something. And him and his wife and his baby only eat raw meat. They eat raw chicken, raw brain, raw beef, raw steak, raw ground beef. They eat everything completely raw. And so he had made a post about sheep's brain and how he just feels this amazing euphoria. And I wrote to him and I said, I know what you're talking about. I know the euphoria that you're talking about, because when I had beef heart, I had it too. And I asked him, is it like more than heart? Like, is sheep brain more than heart? And he told me, he said sheep's brain is even more euphoric than beef heart. I was like, what? The only place that I have found that sells sheep's brain is a Persian type grocery store. I reached out to somebody on Facebook a while ago, and she told me that in their culture, I think she's Persian, yeah. She said they eat sheep's brain all the time. So I will be trying sheep's brain, because when you feel the euphoria, you want that feeling forever. And you're like, okay, this is what my body has been craving because it feels so good. So organ meats, I will never not eat them. I don't want to eat them every day. Like, I know Paul Saladino and some of them are eating them all the time, but I know for a fact from having had sickle cell, because they give some sickle cell patients blood transfusions all the time, and those patients get iron overload. So once you have too much iron, you can have a plethora of problems. And so don't overdo it with the organ meats, but I will never not have organ meat.
Beef heart is literally the best.
I just did a light sear on it. It's still pretty rare because it's a muscle meat. So that means it's gonna be super tough. You have to think about the cow pumping that muscle their whole life. So this meat, if you put it on the fire, it's gonna get tough quick. I learned that the hard way. So I just do a gentle sear because I'm not quite ready to be about that life of eating it raw. Beef heart has so much CoQ10 in it. Mitochondria is the energy factory of the body, and your body can get lots of that energy from CoQ10. It also acts as an antioxidant, beef heart does. It has all of the B vitamins in it, B1, B2, B3, B5, B12, choline, all those really good things for your brain. And when you eat it, you just feel so good. I don't know how to explain it, but it literally feels like freaking joy being injected into your veins. If you are trying to get pregnant, I highly recommend beef heart. If you want to feel energy, if you want to be free from depression and anxiety, beef heart. If you want to have just pure joy, beef heart. Thank you, Lord, for the cow who sacrificed his life for me, because beef heart. It makes you feel so good. The next thing on carnivore is because I had a bone marrow transplant and I went through chemotherapy, and because I have just a history of sickle cell, they always said that I had joint pain from my sickle cell crisis from before my transplant, but I don't recall having joint pain from before the transplant. During my bone marrow transplant, I went through a lot of chemo and I was on a lot of steroids. I had something called graft versus host disease, which is essentially when your body is rejecting the transplant in certain parts of your body. So just think of it like this: the graft is the transplant, the bone marrow that is coming into my body, and the host is me. Like, my body is the host. So I had graft versus host disease. I had it in my gut, and to make it better, they had me on a lot of steroids. I was really sick. I was on like just high levels of steroids for a long time. The doctor said that caused something called avascular necrosis. So they said that there is dead bone in my wrists, my knees, my ankles, and then my elbows. For years and years and years, my bone marrow, I will be having my 10-year bone marrow transplant anniversary this year. And for the last 10 years, I have had crazy joint pain. And I thought it was just a way of life. I thought that feeling like a 90-year-old woman was just how I was gonna feel for my life. There was nothing I haven't done to try to alleviate the pain. So when I went on the carnivore diet, my joint pain went away. Like, do I still get like my knee? Like, I've had knee surgery. So yeah, sometimes my knee, like, it hurts.
Okay, listen, he's got you, sweetheart. Okay, come on. Watch it. There you go. You're doing well. You're doing well. See? You're doing well. Come on, let's put your arm in here. Sweetheart, you're doing well. You got it. You're good. Okay, so what's next? Come on, focus with him. Sierra, you gotta focus with him.
You'll be fine,
Okay, so now what? So just follow whatever he asks you to do. You have to do it.
Scoot forward a little bit more, okay?
Come on. All right. Let's go.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's take a breath, okay?
But the joint pain in my hands, my elbows, my knees, my feet, going on carnivore made the joint pain go away. So now I have noticed a correlation between grains and too much vegetables. My husband and I were in Houston during the holidays and we deviated a lot. We went out to dinner with my dad one day and I ordered 2 salads because it looked like the healthiest. I was trying to still maintain some sense of healthy. He's calling again. Hey, babe.
Hey, Mel, how are you?
I'm good. Still recording.
Should I come home for lunch?
Can you give me like 35 more minutes to finish my video?
Yeah, that's fine.
See, how about 1? Is that too late? That's an hour.
Just have something ready for me when I get home.
Okay, love you. So I thought that joint pain was just a way of life. I thought that I was going to be in pain for all of my life. What I was saying is that when we went home for the holidays, I was trying to have something healthy-ish. I don't remember if I saw meat on the menu. So I got 2 salads. I got like a chicken salad, some kind of like, well, yeah, chicken salad was meat. And then the other one was just like a Brussels sprout type salad. And that night I had crazy joint pain. I think that when you do the carnivore diet, you will realize that you can do an elimination. elimination. I think it's the best elimination diet there is, because once you rid your system of just everything, processed food, junk food, fruits and vegetables, and you go on straight meat and fat, when you start to reintroduce foods, you will very quickly be like, wow, like my body doesn't like this. My body actually doesn't like a lot of things. So the joint pain went away. That's a big one. You'll see that a lot in carnivore community. Speaking of my joint pain going away, we're gonna tie that, and with joint pain going away, I learned a lot about oxalate dumping. So I'm a gardener, I do garden, and from a botanical standpoint, it does make sense, right? Like plants have to protect themselves from being eaten. They have to ward off pests. They have to survive in the wild. So plants have a lot of oxalates in them, crystals, things like that. So sometimes people say, which I'm not gonna get into the science of it because I'm not a scientist, I'm not a doctor, but they talk about oxalate dumping. So sometimes when you go on carnivore, you might start having crazy pain. And so that's your body starting to release all of the oxalates that you've been consuming for so long. I've read stories about people having really bad kidney stones and things like that. I won't get deep into the weeds on that, but from a botanical standpoint, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. I also noticed that, you know, I grew eggplant and tomatoes in my garden. I think I had 22 tomato plants this year in my summer garden from last year. I planted so many tomatoes, and because they were ready right around the time I was on carnivore, I think I ate 2 cherry tomatoes. Oh, I had the worst pain in my life. So I noticed that for me, tomatoes are a huge trigger for me when it comes to joint pain. And also I learned about lectins, and then eggplant. So eggplants are a nightshade, tomatoes are a nightshade. Will I plant tomatoes again this year? Absolutely. Like I was the neighborhood tomato dealer. Like people were constantly coming over here picking tomatoes and enjoying my garden, which I want that. So I'm gonna always have a garden. I'm not gonna not have a garden. Me and my husband are planning to move, and there's gonna be fruit trees and tomatoes, and I'm gonna have herbs. I'm gonna have all the things. So I want a garden, but I did learn a lot about oxalate dumping and oxalate. Sally Norton has a book called Toxic Superfoods. There's a lot of people who have had Crohn's and IBS and all kinds of problems, and it's actually because their body does not tolerate fruits and vegetables. And when I was listening to a lot of these doctors and things like that, I believe it was Dr. Anthony Chafee, he started talking about how they actually gave fruits and vegetables to women during a certain point to make them infertile. So I don't know how true that is. I haven't done the research on my own. If you start the carnivore diet, you will also see testimonials of women who have done carnivore who are like, I cut fruits and vegetables and I went on carnivore and I had success getting pregnant after years and years and years of infertility. There's a lot of doctors who, there's another doctor, I'm blanking on his name, he has white hair. I'll link one of his videos here in the description box, but there's a lot of links to people having success with pregnancy. And I believe that if I didn't have something so catastrophic happen to me, like having a bone marrow transplant and going through intense bouts of chemotherapy, I believe that if I was struggling with infertility, I believe from my research that carnivore and prayer would help me get pregnant, because it makes sense. While I was on carnivore, I also was introduced to Weston A. Price. I got this book, Nutrition and Physical Degeneration, and he explores all of these different communities where he goes and he talks about their diet. And you have to think about it. We come from our lineage, as all of us being Americans, we come from ancestors who were hunters and gatherers. That was our primal way of survival. Even in biblical times, I was having so many revelations about Cain and Abel. I was like, wait, was one more blessed because he actually had the animal sacrifice? I told my husband, my husband was like, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. But I was like, babe, do you think that the world is fallen because of the literal apple? Do you think that that is God telling us that we should not eat apples? My husband said I took it too far, but the panic attack I had after eating an apple made me think that. So anyway, Weston Price has this amazing book. I haven't read the whole thing, but I've read quite a bit of it. Very fascinating. I also discovered Sally Fallon, and she has I have both of her books. One is Nourishing Traditions, and it is just about the lies that America tells us about cholesterol, and she has some really great recipes in here, but just talking about our ancestors, how we used to eat as a culture and how we have survived as humans. And then she has another book called Nourishing Broth. I haven't made anything from this one yet, but she talks about broth and really gives you a lot of insight into good broths to help your body. I have learned a lot, even with regard to teeth. My mom has had so many teeth problems And I believe my mom has been very deficient. So just because people are telling you that fruits and vegetables are the way, the truth, and the light doesn't mean that your body is absorbing those nutrients. Our bodies have been processing animal fats and animal foods for as far as we can remember. Also, with regard to the joint pain going away, inflammation went away. Like when I tell you, I was like, I was working out prior to the carnivore diet, and I remember when me and my husband first started dating, I was giving him a lot of green juice, and he was losing weight because before he started dating me, he was going out to eat every single day for lunch. He was eating a lot of bullshit, and so of course, like, he was gonna see weight loss when I'm juicing for him. I was sending him with lunch every day. Yeah, we did partake before we got married. We were having slumber parties. So when he would sleep over, I would send lunch. I would send lunch with him to work. Which, if you're dating and you're partaking, like, treat your man good. Listen, I'm not of the feminist generation. I'm like, take care of your mans, girl. I remember when me and my husband first started dating, I was like, auditions have begun. Auditions have begun. Like, let me show this man that he cannot live without me, you know? But also, like, you have to do what you love. Like, you have to find a man who is buying what you're selling. If there's a man, like, I remember I had dated guys and they were not really into cooking and things like that. They weren't into the things that I would make. And I was like, okay, they're not buying what I'm selling. So you have to be with somebody who's really buys what you're selling. So that's a whole other thing. Maybe I should do a video about that. But anyway, when I started giving my husband a lot of green juice and things like that, we saw weight loss. A lot of his stomach problems went away. But then there came a point where we go to burn boot camp, and there was a moment in time where my husband and we were working out every day, and I was giving him green juice, and I was giving him barley bowls and sweet potatoes and all the healthy, quote unquote healthy things. And I was like, I don't feel like, I mean, granted, my husband's never gonna be a small man. My husband is a big man. He's big, okay? He's never gonna be small. But in my mind, I felt like he wasn't losing weight the way I thought he should be. I was like, he's working out and he's eating all the healthy things. Why is he not losing weight? And it made me think, because when I first started dating him, his sister told me, we do really good on meat. That's what his sister told me. My sister-in-law was like, our bodies do good on meat. But I was like, this girl doesn't know what she's talking about. She's saying that they're really good on meat, but I know best. Arrogant. When I put him on carnivore, and like we kind of stopped working out because we were losing so much weight. It was like he just went, I mean, the man was looking like he had a 6-pack abs. His skin was also looking glowy. I mean, God, like, meat's making him lose weight like this? So the inflammation goes away. If you have a puffy face, if you can't lose weight, having fat and protein, cutting everything else, the potatoes, carbs, the sugars. I didn't realize that the diet, the vegan or vegetarian diet, that, because he was starting to brag too, like to his friend. He would be like, yeah, bro, like, I don't even eat meat like that anymore. Because that's what society preaches, right? If you're watching Netflix and all these different documentaries, they're telling you don't eat meat. My husband I put him on meat, and he just started looking like a fine snackety snack. So, and he was feeling good too. And I kind of had to sneak it into his diet. So I cook all the meals. He comes home every day for lunch, and he started being confused because he was like, babe, he was like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I was just giving you protein. So at first he was a little confused, but then he would come and he'd be like, babe, like my pants are falling down. Like, I think I'm losing weight. And I was like, oh my God, this diet really works. I had been working out at Burn Boot Camp, and I had lost 20 pounds. I remember I stopped working out on carnivore, and my mom called, and she was like, how much weight are you trying to lose? At that point, I wasn't even working out. I was just getting very, very, very skinny from being on carnivore. So I don't know what kind of magic it is, but that diet is magical. So inflammation went down. During carnivore, I found a genetic mutation called mthfr. It's called mthfr. I started seeing that mutation, and I heard some videos from Dr. Berg about mthfr, and they were talking about all the symptoms that you could have if you had this genetic mutation. And as I'm like listening to these doctors talk about mthfr, I was like, I have this. I have this genetic mutation. I have this. So I reached out to my primary care physician, and I told her, I said, I want you to test me for this mutation. And sure enough, it came back with a double mutation. As I was thinking about this today, I was wondering, like, did I have mthfr when I was born? Or could I have possibly gotten mthfr when I had my bone marrow transplant? I don't think that when you have your bone marrow transplant, I don't know if my genetics change. They literally killed my bone marrow that was making sickle cells, and they gave me somebody else's marrow. I don't know if I got the mutation from getting somebody's marrow or if I was born with it. I guess I would have to get my mom and dad to get tested for it, but it came back as so not heterozygous, but homozygous MTHFR. So it's a double mutation, so I got it from my mom and my dad. So if you have MTHFR, that means that your body cannot detoxify, your liver cannot detoxify. It also means that folic acid, hear me roar, folic acid is toxic to your body if you have MTHFR. Hear me again. Folic acid is toxic to your body if you have MTHFR. Being born with sickle cell disease, they had me on penicillin and folic acid. And as a little girl, I remember having the worst panic attacks. Oh my God. And here I am taking folic acid which makes me think that maybe my mom and my dad both have the genetic copy of MTHFR, because it is more common than people know. I would have panic attacks, and here I am taking folic acid every day. Then fast forward to when I had my bone marrow transplant. The most toxic chemotherapy that you can get is methotrexate if you have MTHFR. And what chemotherapy do you think they gave me for my bone marrow transplant? They gave me methotrexate. And if you have MTHFR, I've been taking multivitamins and prenatals, and all of those vitamins have folic acid in them. So when you have this genetic mutation, your body cannot take the inactive form and make it into something active. It can cause anxiety, it can cause depression, it can cause strokes, heart attacks, it can cause all kinds of things. So I will put some links in the description box about MTHFR, but mine came back as a double mutation, and the day it came back, I cried because I was like, oh my gosh, so many things make sense. As a kid, I ate so unhealthy. I ate ramen noodles, and no shade to my mom, but I ate really bad growing up. Anyway, when it came back, I was so sad because so many things made so much sense. So something like beef liver and beef heart would make my body feel really good, like needing those B vitamins, but not in the form of a supplement. So I found out I had MTHFR. And if you do have this genetic mutation, you guys will see that there's cereals and flours and all kinds of different foods that are enriched with folic acid. So if you have this mutation, you do not want to have any of those things that are enriched with folic acid. Get tested for MTHFR. It could be the thing that's holding you back. My husband stopped snoring. My husband always snores, and I noticed that when we were on the carnivore diet consistently, he does not snore. Now I notice if he has carbs and sugar in his diet, the snoring comes back. I also have seen other people have had that symptom too. So my husband stopped snoring, so that was a really big takeaway of the carnivore diet. Always on the carnivore diet, you are always satiated. When you eat fat and protein, you're never hungry. It's like all the cravings just go away. I know that I just saw a video recently with this really funny YouTuber named like Michelle something, and she's a personal trainer, and she's making fun of like the carnivore cult and people eating butter. Of course, people are eating butter for clicks. Yeah, because that's not normal. Who's eating butter? Courtney Luna is like, we eat butter. We'll eat the cookie, we'll eat the cake, but why can't we just eat butter? Okay, we know, we got that. So for clicks, I got it. But the thing is that Dr. Boz and some of these carnivore diet, like Dr. Boz specifically says, I want my patients to know what satiety feels like, and she's not wrong.
I tell my patients to eat butter. It's not a heart attack in a wrapper. It's actually a way to learn what satiety feels like. Many people struggle to recognize when they feel full, leading to overeating and weight gain. The short chain fats in butter are directly absorbed into your liver and spin into ketones, giving you energy. The longer chain fats in butter are a signal for your brain that it's time to stop eating, you're full. This is not an everyday occurrence, but by eating butter for a day, you're practicing denying yourself your favorite food and recognizing, what does it feel like to feel full?
If you are having a crazy sugar craving or a crazy craving for something and you reach for a stick of butter, the craving goes away. In your mind, you're like, no, but I was thinking about the cookie that I really wanted. But when you go and you reach for the stick of butter, you don't even want it anymore because it kills the craving. High protein, high fat diet really does kill cravings. If you prioritize fat and protein, your cravings are going to go away. There is a recipe where you basically make brown butter and then you put bacon, bits of bacon into the brown butter, and you put it in the freezer, and then you're like nibbling on these like butter bacon treats, and the brown butter gives you that like sweet taste, so to speak, and it's like a treat. And so I would make these brown butter bacon bites, and they were really delicious. So the fat just doesn't make you hungry anymore. So you're never hungry, which will also entail make you lose weight because you're always satisfied. You will naturally, if you do the carnivore diet and you do it with like steak and eggs and not like fish, if you're doing like a steak and eggs per day, that's going to make you lose weight because you'll be eating OMAD. You'll never be hungry. OMAD is 1 meal a day. And then lastly, I will say that a really big pro is that my husband has had these weird allergies his whole life. Like he's like he cannot breathe. And when I put him on carnivore, the man, like his allergies did not get cured. I'm not gonna lie to you like that. He was not cured, but his allergies got tremendously better. My husband, it's so funny, when I met the people that he grew up with, they have always been like, yeah, we've never not seen this man without tissues. He'll be like, when we go for walks, he'll be like blowing his nose all the time. But when he went on carnivore, allergies went away. Called his mom and I said, Mama, I said, he has food allergies. Every time he deviates from a strict carnivore diet, there's more like wheezing, more just weird allergy stuff. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, food allergies. Your son has food allergies. Will my husband stick to carnivore now? Even though he knows what is setting him off, no, he won't. But his allergies went away. And the last thing I'll say about carnivore is like, having been a patient who had sickle cell disease, I feel like this diet could have remedied so much for me in my childhood. Since being on the carnivore diet, my hemoglobin has been so high every time I go to the doctor. And I just think about all the times that I had pain crises when I was a kid growing up. So basically, if you don't know, sickle cell is when your red blood cells are, I'm 10 years free. I don't even have my explanation down packed anymore. But sickle cell disease is basically when your red blood cells are shaped like a banana. They are crescent shaped, and then they don't travel through your veins, and they get stuck, and it causes excruciating pain all over in various parts of your body. It can cause strokes and all kinds of things over time. And so even if you're not having a pain crisis, your body is always sickling. So there's always sickle cells. Your red blood cells are sick. And so ever since, and I used to have very low hemoglobin. So there was many a times I was in the hospital all the time. And since stumbling on carnivore diet, I told my mom, I'm like, how did, my mom was ordering random shit from like Africa for me to take, like supplements, anything for me to get better. I just feel like having had sickle cell or any sort of blood disorder, this diet could have remedied so much for me. So I definitely think that. And then the last thing I'll say is that my husband and I have been on the fertility journey. There's other videos here on the channel about that. Because I have been in the hospital so much throughout my life with regard to sickle cell and my bone marrow transplant, I have no veins and I'm a really hard stick. And so many a times when I have gone to the doctor, they either one, can't find the vein, or for two, they will poke me and no blood comes. When I went carnivore, and my husband has seen it in the last 4 years that we've been together, when I went carnivore, it was miraculous every time. And we were like, this is not luck. There's something to this. Every time I would go to the hospital to get poked, blood would just be gushing out, a waterfall of blood. And we know because also my hemoglobin has been high and the hematocrit as well. So the way that the red meat has remedied my blood and helped me in that way, even with just getting routine blood work done, it has been life-changing. All in all, I think that this diet is amazing. I think that it has helped so much for me. I don't regret a single second of it. I wish that I had found it sooner. I wish that doctors had more education on nutrition and would preach that food is medicine and medicine is food, because there are so many people who could be well if they just knew what to eat. But instead, people are interested in making money and just villainizing meat and telling people that they need to live off of vegetables and fruit. So those are the pros of the carnivore diet. Now I'm going to get into the cons and why we no longer do it. The first reason, and this is the biggest reason that I stopped carnivore, but also I would love to revisit the diet because there is something that I do now that I was not doing. So the first big con as to why I stopped it is that I could not sleep. Like, I was not sleeping, and I feel like people in carnivore don't really talk about this, but there would be nights when I would, or even during the day, I would be like this. I had crazy spikes of cortisol. I literally could not go to sleep. I did not sleep at all last night. I woke up, I had magnesium, I had melatonin, 2 doses, I had a stick of butter. No matter what I did, I could not get any sleep. But yesterday all I had was kidney and egg and seafood. So I'm thinking I didn't have enough fat and enough good red meat, especially after days of diarrhea. The diarrhea seemed to stop. So I went to Whole Paychecks this morning and I got a ribeye steak. It was the most frustrating thing because I felt the best I had ever felt in my whole life. I was like, oh my God, like I look beautiful. My skin is luminescent. I don't have joint pain. I'm thin. Everything that I could want is happening, but why am I not sleeping? I can't sleep. It was literally like this. Couldn't sleep. To me, I think sleep is the most important thing in life. Like, having a nutritious diet, but also having good sleep is incredibly important. I felt like all of the benefits were negated because I wasn't having sleep. Now, here's the kicker. Because when I was on carnivore, I was not drinking raw milk at the time. I wonder if I did carnivore and I incorporated raw milk, because raw milk has carbs in it. If I had raw milk daily, if I did strict carnivore, I wonder if that would help me sleep. So I would love to revisit the diet, because even just this week, I ate, there was a couple of days this past week where I ate pretty strict carnivore. I ate like fish and sardines and all this, and I had milk at the end of the night, but I did put honey in the milk and I slept just fine. So I wonder if I just need some carbs from milk. But either way, my body needs carbs. Sleep was a problem for me. My husband didn't say he really noticed that. I think that there was nights that he wasn't sleeping well, but he's a guy. He doesn't pay attention very closely. I have to be his kind of doctor and see what's going on. But sleep was a big con for me. There is a girl on Instagram who's very pretty. She does the carnivore diet on Instagram, and she's young. I remember there was some posts that she was putting out about not being able to sleep, and she was also saying that she was not having enough energy to get through her workouts. And I actually messaged her and I told her, I said, look, just because you've built your brand around being on the carnivore diet, that doesn't mean you have to stick to it. It's not working for you anymore, you should stop. Just because all these people are following you and you feel like you have to keep it going because you have a brand around it, I told her, you should stop. So I do worry about young people who are building brands around this, because there could be a moment where your body's like, this doesn't work for me, and you should stop. So I have seen some people who say that sleep is a problem for them, and I don't really feel like that's something that's talked a lot about in carnivore, especially for those that are super strict. And people will say, oh, you weren't fat adapted. I was fat adapted. It was too much cortisol. The second reason that we stopped carnivore is heart arrhythmias. My husband was like, yeah, I'm losing weight and I look great, but he's like, I feel my heart. We were doing all the things. I must have bought every kind of version of electrolytes there was. I don't know if you guys pay attention to electrolytes. On the back of an electrolyte, there's different breakdowns of the ratios of potassium to magnesium to sodium. Me and my husband were both having heart arrhythmias, and it was really scary. One night, he was not feeling good and his blood pressure was high, and the heart arrhythmias were not worth it. If this diet is so good, why do we have all of these electrolyte imbalances? And then when we went, I ended up in the ER. I asked the doctor, I was like, well, how do you know if you have, because you can have too many electrolytes. And they were like, the symptoms are pretty much the same whether you have too much or too little. We're gonna not do this. So the heart arrhythmia imbalances. But I also want to say too that I wasn't wasn't having raw milk, which I think that milk also has electrolytes to it. So I would be curious to do the diet again with milk included. So the heart arrhythmias were just, my husband hated it. So the third reason I want to say that I thought it was a con is because I love cooking. I'm a homemaker. I am a traditional wife. I'm at home. And yes, I could find other things to do. I have done entertainment in the past. I do voiceover. And yes, I could dedicate time to other things. However, I do enjoy cooking. I love cooking for my man. I love cooking for myself. I find it to be very therapeutic. And when I was doing the carnivore diet, I felt like it was just so boring. It was eggs and meat every day, no seasonings, and I felt like it was kind of boring. I want to be creative in the kitchen. I want to cook things and make people happy, and I think that that's a part of something that brings me joy. If I'm just on strict carnivore all the time, I feel like there's no joy in the very place that gives me the most joy, like being in the kitchen. My grandmother was a homemaker, and she made all kinds of delicious things. And I think there's such a beautiful thing to being a homemaker, and I feel like just being on carnivore, even though it has so many health benefits, for me, it just kind of robs me of a little bit of that joy. I had to give myself that joy back. I still do notice like inflammation. Like I've been workshopping a lot of sourdough recipes lately, and I'm like, okay, I can't be eating this much sourdough because, I do notice the joint pain. I'm trying to find a balance. Our ancestors were onto something. Like I have an aunt and she's almost 80. And for my birthday, I came over to her house and she's like, look, darling, like I made you food. You have a protein, a starch, and a veggie. And I think that, our ancestors were onto something. Balance is key. I don't think that being vegan, vegetarian is the way. I've done both those diets all my life and I had a lot of repercussions. And I don't necessarily think that carnivore is the way. I think that carnivore can help a lot of things, but for me and my family, balance is key. We are now animal-based. We will eat animal products with all of our meals and prioritize fat and protein for satiety, for the health of our bodies, but balance has become the most important thing for us. The last thing I'll say is that with carnivore, I ended up learning about repeats. After going on carnivore and just having a lot of really bad sleep fluctuations and trying to heal my hormones, I was talked to by this woman on Instagram who was able to give me so much information. She taught me about the repeat way of eating. That diet ended up putting 20 pounds on me, which I'm trying to find a balance back to my weight before. But that diet made me gain 20 pounds, just all the sugar. And yeah, the sugar lowered cortisol and I could sleep just fine. But yeah, the repeat way of eating put a lot of weight on me. Now I'm just trying to find balance. I want to eat food that I like, that I enjoy, and that's where I'm at. And the last thing I'll say is there's something called intuitive eating. I did not realize before I went on the carnivore diet, there was a moment in time, and I talk about this in my beef liver heals video, where I was wanting a steak so bad, but I kept telling myself, no, Sierra, you need to have discipline, because I had already made this lentil dish here at my home. So up until that point, I hadn't had any meat. And I kept thinking about a steak. It was like my brain would not shut up about a steak. I was like, I need a steak, I need a steak, I need a steak. Finally, I gave into it. And so I think that our bodies are incredibly smart. And so I learned about something called intuitive eating. Your body will send cravings for certain things that you need. If your body is craving oranges, you could be very deficient in vitamin C. If you are somebody, for me, I had a period in time before I was on carnivore where I was constantly craving ice cream. I didn't even used to like ice cream, but my husband was like, since when do you crave ice cream? I believe that that was my body chasing calcium. When you're having the craving for seafood or for a steak or something like that, your body could be like, look, I need red meat, or I need iodine. Iodine is in seafood. So look out for those things and listen to your body. Your body knows what it needs. So pay attention, think about the cravings that you have, and I hope that my carnivore experience is helpful to you. And so let me know down in the comments, have you tried the carnivore diet? What was your experience like with it? Would you do it again? Are you still on it? Are you carnivore for life? Tell me what your thoughts are. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.